Hey there, it's Max again. So first, I want to start off this video by apologizing. I know, I'm already apologizing for shitty videos and it's my second video. Really, for my first video, let's just say I was scrambling. I was like, oh shit, I'm about to start taking tea. I should have a pre-tea video. And that's how you got that 3 minutes of shit that I call my intro video, which you learn nothing about me, even though that's what I said I was gonna do. Who knows? This is what we're gonna call take 2. I've now been on tea for 6 days now. This video is not about changes because, as most people will tell you, things don't happen that fast. Besides hot flashes, I literally feel like I'm having one right now. Back to the real content of this video, I want to talk about how I knew that I was trans. I've always marched to the beat of my own drum in a lot of aspects of my life. I didn't really give a shit about gender norms of any variety. But for a long time, people would ask me, do you have gender things? And I was like, no, what do you mean? I'm just my own thing. I don't subscribe to society, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking years I denied this. 20 years I denied this. And I think for me, I just assumed oh, I would have known if I was trans. I would have had the thought cross my mind I'm trans, and then I would have just known. But I don't know, maybe that happens for some people. You'll have to comment and tell me if you just had the thought, I'm trans. But I don't think there's a list of oh, do I know I'm trans? You could take a random BuzzFeed quiz, but I wouldn't know if that's really anything. For me, my moment was actually when my brother recommended to me that I watch the movie Disclosure. It's a great film. It's on trans representation in the media. And I went into this on a Friday afternoon. I never watch movies on Fridays in the afternoon. I actually never really watch movies. I don't know. I just don't. But he was like, you have to watch this. And then my other friend was like, oh my god, I watched this movie Disclosure and it was so good. And I was like, I guess I'll watch it. So I sat down on my bed on a Friday afternoon, like I never do, and I watched the film. And as I was watching it, instead of just thinking oh wow, this is eye-opening, I didn't know that society treated trans people this badly. Oh wait, I did. But not knowing about all the media stuff, and that was very interesting to learn more about. But the more I sat there and watched this movie, I was like, so that's what trans men are. Oh, that's their ideas. Oh, could that be me? Does that apply? That was a great film. I was like, oh gosh, could this be my life? And then for a few weeks after watching that, I was in massive confusion. I legitimately have never considered my gender, even though people who have known me for years would be like, what do you mean you've never considered your gender? What is this cross-dressing that you do? And what is this masculine hobby that you have? And I'm like, okay, that was just me. But I never connected the dots that these feelings I had, that was in the realm of trans. And it's weird to say that, but I really had never made those connections. I was in this massive cloud of confusion. I was really out of it, and I finally opened up to someone and was like, yo, I think I'm having a gender crisis. I thought I had existential problems, but this eclipsed my existential problems. I finally came to terms with myself and was I think the reason that there's dissonance right now is not the idea that maybe I am trans, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm confused about it. It was I am confused because I know that this label totally fits and that is my truth. And for so long, I haven't been living that way, and I've been telling people that that's not my truth. And it was just a mind-boggling experience of oh, that is me, but part of me has defended for so long that that's not, that I was at conflict with myself. This is me, and I don't know how to say that is me because I've been telling people for literally years that it's not. And there was a part of me that was oh, that's they were right and I'm wrong if they thought that I was trans before I knew that I was trans. But then I got over myself and was no, it's not their story to tell, it's not their label to give you, And I guess for me, it boiled down to I'm not consenting to what other people want to label me. I'm defining how I want to be labeled or how I want to be acknowledged in the world. So no, like no one could tell me I was trans before I told them I was trans because I'm pioneering my destiny. And as I come out to friends and family, I think what I reiterate to them is this is not me, like coming out is not sharing something private. It's me making public my truth. It's not me letting you in on some secret. It's me telling you how I want you to treat me because this is who I am and that is how I would like to be acknowledged. So I'm redefining how I'm going to present, and I'd hope that you can respect that. I hope that you can be on the same page as me now that I have a truth that I'm sharing with you. I'd say after I got over a lot of that initial confusion, then there was a bit of fear of like, oh, like if this is who I am, then how do I proceed forth now? Being like, oh, like I want to live in alignment. And then I think that's where some of the dysphoria set in, where it's like, oh crap, like this is who I'm supposed to be and who I want to be, and I'm not that way, and I want to be that way, and now it's like, now it's more dissonant of like, that is what I want, and now I feel a lot more self-conscious about like, can I get there? Whereas when you're just living like free of all the norms and like doing your own damn thing, like you don't care if other people are perceiving you that way, because it's like you're not caring if people are like perceiving you one way, whether that's how you identify or not, because you're just being and they're just like saying. But once you like make the statement like I am this, I need a level of affirmation from the people around me that like, yes, we are seeing you as you want to be seen. And like I hate that that's like part of it, but I mean honestly I think to me like there is a level of gender that is in our social interaction. It doesn't have to be dictated by society, and at the same time what is a gender identity and what are pronouns if not what other people use. I will not pronoun myself. Like I don't go around referring to myself in the first, the third, or the second, like any person's, like I'm just like blah 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 spewing, and then when you want to reference what I've been doing in our interactions, that's when you're going to pronoun me. So I'm telling you the pronoun I want you to use. Now like it's on you to use the right one, and now that I care more about that, then I care like, are you going to get the right one? Are you going to believe that I am what I say I am? And I don't think, I hate that like that has to be something that people consider, like what other people are going to perceive. And like I hate the idea of passing, you know, that's just bullshit. And like it is a fear that I think a lot of people have, or at least I have. It's like, if this is how I want to be seen, it means a lot to be seen that way. And I think another thing for me is like growing up, like I didn't care about gender norms of what a female was. And at the same time, it was like, if I was identifying as female, even though I did not present at all feminine, it was like, well, I don't need external validation of that gender because my sex validates it. But once you step into a realm where you're now identifying in a way that at the moment does not match your sex, like I still have 2X chromosomes, I can never change it. I can't go through every cell in my body and go, why? Like that's not how it works. Sorry. But because I don't have that confirmation of biology, then it's like, then I feel even more pressure to have that social confirmation. And that's where like my head went next with it. And that's still something that it's like, as you're early in maybe a physical transition or a social transition, I feel so much more self-conscious than I did when I was just like, who cares? Because it's like, now I'm like, oh, I want to be the person that I want to be, and like so badly I know I am, and I really just hope that that can be seen by other people too. I still feel confident in my identity. I still feel I'm fully a guy. I'm he, him pronouns. My name is Max. Like I am set on this. Like it's good. And I really hope that you can respect that. And I know that I don't need your validation. And I still feel like it helps with my own turmoil when I feel like I get that. And it's hard on your own mental well-being when you feel like you aren't getting that, or that you aren't going to get that, even when you haven't been in that situation yet. So I had this bam, watch his disclosures, like, holy shit, that's me, has this cloud of confusion, like, this is totally me, but, like, I've told people for so long it's not, like, dissonance. And then this, like, oh, I'm more self-conscious because now, like, I know who I am and how I want you to identify me, but now I'm, like, scared, like, that you may not pick up on that memo, and I'm like, shit, like, you need to pick up on this memo. I think the last thing is, then I started to look back at, I had constructed this whole narrative about, like, how all those things, like, could be true and, like, not indicate anything. But then when I look back at it and I'm like, no, like, I do identify as male, then I look back at, like, those childhood things and I'm like, oh, like, yeah, that was indicating, maybe, to those people who've now asked me hundreds of times if I have gender things. Like, I think the classic example is, like, I just wish I had a boy body. I wish I could play with the boys because our fucking sexist PE coach makes the boys play in one place and the girl play in another. I'm like, no, like, I totally, like, should be playing over there with them. Like, so many instances of, oh, I don't have the wrong gender, I just have the wrong sex. My inner being is just gender neutral, like, one of a kind, like, special limited edition, 1999. But, like, the shell that little, like, being lives in, I've always known and wanted it to be perceived as masculine. I've never, ever tried to present in a feminine light because that didn't fit. That did not fit. I did not like wearing girls' clothes. I did not like the girl shape of a body, like that type of figure. I didn't like what that was. In how I express to the world and how I wish, like, that vessel that I'm in, like, communicate to the world, it's always been masculine. Sorting through my gender stuff, it was like, no, like, I'm not non-binary. I do solidly land in identifying as a male, even if our inner beings are all what I would consider just themselves. Like, my core isn't gendered. I don't think cores are gendered. That's just my opinion, you know, hate it if you want. What got me excited as I thought more about, like if trans fits, it's like, wait, I can do things that can help me affirm the body that I've always felt I belonged in. The impetus for, like, okay, I wanted to start hormones is confirming that aspect of myself that, like, I've always felt was more fitting for me. Hormones definitely aren't for everyone. There's everyone who has their transition in a different way. I think something I've learned from going to more groups and doing more reflection myself is that no two individuals on this whole planet have the same story. Whether that story be around a mental health issue or a label of being trans or gay, race identity, or any identity under the sun, no two people have the same story. So you can't expect that anything that any person tells you about their experience can be applied to the larger group. Like, that is the problem with stereotypes. And the problem even with, like, looking at one person's personal experience and thinking that, like, oh, because I know one person with this thing, like, then I know more about it. Because, like, what I say, my truth may be, like, totally wrong for other trans people, just like some trans people may have a truth that totally doesn't fit with me, because, like, it's not a monolithic thing. Like, anyone can talk about their story, but just acknowledge that, like, I'm sharing my story, and, like, that could be totally wrong for other people. And that, like, my story isn't invalid because of that. Knowing that, like, you don't need some sort of credential to share your story and to live your truth. You can just be who you are, and being who you are, you can talk about that. Don't make it a blanket statement that this is fact for everyone, but it can be a fact for you because it's your truth. And no one can take that away from you. No one. No one. There are many people who might try to tear it down and tell you that, like, no dude, like that's not right, that's inaccurate. You're right, that could be inaccurate for you, that could be inaccurate for 89% of the other people who have some label that I'm talking about in this instance. I'm just talking about myself, and we might share a label, but that doesn't mean we're the same person. And if I was a Scientologist and talked about those weird things like feet and like that inner being, my inner being, your inner being, whatever inner being Tom Cruise is trying to talk about, they're all different. They're all different. They're all valid. And that's all I have to say. Hopefully, you learned a little bit more about me in this take 2 of my intro.